The video is Eli Nishmas from Shmuel Baruch L'chaim Tzvidah V'Gdei Shabbos parshas zachor es Asher Salach Amalek. We have to remember what Amalek did, and I'm sure we all know there's so many different versions, dikdukim, being very careful to make sure that we lane the word correctly, whether it's zecher or zeicher. And if you're Sephardi or Ashkenazi or Yemenite, some people try to make sure they get every type of version of laning, and then they try to make sure that they get the right Sefer Torah. So the Yemen say so, the Beis Yosef say, the Arizal Sefer Torah. What's quite, I would say, surprising is that the carefulness in the mitzvah doesn't seem to be focused on the meaning. And again, it's not, unfortunately, it's something that plagues us. What do I mean? So, first of all, the actual fulfillment of the mitzvah, parshas zachor, according to many Rishonim, has nothing to do with the reading of the Torah itself. That means that the ikka point of Zchiras Amalek is to remember what Amalek did. Now, according to the Rambam, according to the Sefer Chinuch, there's really like a two-part mitzvah here. Part of the mitzvah is to remember what Amalek did. The second part is to be moichet, to erase their name. Now, so of course everyone asks, what do you mean? If I want to erase the name, why would I mention it again? The same thing seems to be with Haman. We make so much noise when Haman's name is mentioned, but we make so much noise and remember it much better. The answer is quite simple. And the Koren actually explains this in Maseches Brachas, and this seems to be the understanding also the way the Mishnah Berurah, the Chavetz Chaim, and like I said, the Rambam, the Sefer Chinuch, and that's perhaps the best way to announce the mitzvah. Because this mitzvah is a mitzvah d'oraisa, a biblical obligation, and therefore we have to have the right kavanah. The kavanah of the mitzvah is to remember what Amalek did, how terrible they were. And how what they represent is venom. It's poison. And because it represents poison and venom and it's so terrible, therefore, we have to make sure that it's stirred inside of us all the time. So once a year at least, the Chesed says two, 3 times. Many have the custom to remember it every single day. That's just because we have a dictate not to forget. But why? It's for a purpose. So when the time comes, when the opportunity comes, believe it or not, that's one of the first things we're going to do is going to destroy Amalek. That's the time where we're going to use all our karate and everything else, and all the anger and anything that we have inside of us, and go and kill Amalek. That's the purpose. It's an amazing mitzvah. Quite, I would say, not the norm, and certainly not something that we usually teach. Usually we work on ourselves. We're working on mechila, we're working on being better people, we're working on being like godly people, which means to have compassion and mercy, forgiving. What a strange mitzvah. But there's a very deep message here. So, first of all, besides going and hearing from a Sefer Torah, whether it's zecher or zeicher, whether it's from a Beis Yosef Sefer Torah, like I said, or whether it's from Arizal Sefer Torah, or the Yemenite Sefer Torah, those are all nice hidurim. But me'ikar adin, especially when it comes to, for example, women are not mechuyev to go. It's a nice thing to go. It's a nice minhag, but if it's difficult, the main thing is to open up a chumash at home. Because according to Moshe Shom, it's not through the Sefer Torah itself, it's through the remembering with your own words. With your own discussion with your kids, with your family. What should we remember? And therefore, the most important part of this mitzvah is to read the psukim and understand them. Rosh Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, or Sternbach, Zichronam Livracha, discuss whether if a person read these psukim or listened to these psukim but didn't understand what was being said, are they fulfilling the mitzvah at all? And there's a strong side to say no. So when we read the psukim, zachor es Asher Salach Amalek, remember what Amalek did. But what was so terrible? Asher korcha b'derech, he cooled you off. Okay, so what? So he cooled us. He started up with the Klal Yisrael, and Rashi quotes 3 different explanations, and you should go through the different explanations with your kids. And at least the simple understanding, he cooled us off. What does that mean? There was a certain chutzpah that Amalek had, that they came. As the pasuk says, "Velo yarei Elokim," they were not God-fearing. This is the key. Amalek represented a nation that even though every other nation was chil ochaz, yosh v'plashas, as you read in Az Yoshu, every other nation was trembling, and they came and said, "No, it's nothing. There's no real God. It's all doubt, suffix. Amalek is gematria suffix. Politica is gematria suffix. It's the same gematria." Because it removes God from the picture. It's just a world of teva, of nature. There is no God here. Don't get all excited. I heard the most amazing pshat that Amalek is a lashon of Amalek of Melika. Melika means to cut the head from the body, like the bird that's offered for the burnt offering of this week's parsha. Why? Because it cuts off all the regesh, the excitement from the seichel. Unfortunately, and I think that's the challenge of this generation, we're so sometimes disconnected. We could go into davening and we could be busy saying words, and they get all angry at someone because they didn't say tachnun, or because they said something, we could be busy doing the most things that just don't make sense. Why? Because the regesh, the heart, and the mind are not together. That's something to think about. But I think the most important thing is to sit down with our family, with ourselves, and think what it means, velo yoreh Elokim. Yira, what does Yira mean? What does it really mean to us? The Taich, as Bevavi Mishkan Evne in his Sefer, he explains, based on the Mesilas, there's 5 levels of Yira, starting from Yira Sarinish, which means be scared, because there's punishment, but then going higher and higher until you get to Yiras Chet, which means to be scared that we're going to lose an amazing eternal connection. So Yira means to see what? Consequences. There are consequences to our actions. There are consequences to not being connected to Hashem. There are consequences, and that's the key. Amalek wasn't concerned by consequences. No Yira. And that's what we need to get. That message. Internalize the message. Have an amazing Shabbos.